Please read the roll.
Adel.
Here.
Avedisian.
Here.
Buell. Camilleri.
Here.
Curry.
In person.
DeBella.
Here. In
Galligan.
person.
Gardot. Hall. Healy.
Here.
Hoffman.
Here.
Holloway.
Here.
Iono. LeBeau.
Here.
Lester. Magnan. Murata. Osgood. Payne.
Here.
Patel.
Here.
Salemi.
Here.
Salmonides. Sweezy.
Yeah.
Taylor.
Here.
Torres. Vecino.
Here.
Carrier. We have a quorum.
Okay, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Move on.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sit down. And get it over.
Okay. Approval of the minutes of the meeting of June the 10th, 2019. Is there a motion to adopt? It's been moved and seconded. Are there any additions or deletions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? One. Okay. B, public comments relative to agenda items. Where's Judy?
There actually are written comments from Judy Allen in front of all the commissioners that'll be included in the.
Okay, on your desk is a communications from Judy. Okay. Report from the district chairman. 7, report from the chief executive officer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In the interest of time, I was going to talk about the tunnel and the funding, but we did not get a chance to have BPW meeting. So it's on agenda number 9, so we're going to talk about it there. So I'm going to skip through and shorten my presentation. The one thing that I would like to make everyone aware of is there was as we had talked about, and it's been in the press, there's been a number of water quality issues in the town of Glastonbury, specifically uranium. And we had presented here at Water Bureau petitions that we received in specific areas of Glastonbury. Public hearing chaired by Commissioner Payne on June 26th. And we were looking at 3 specific areas of concern. And without getting into the details of those areas, one of the biggest concerns, which is a fair concern, is there's 6,200 water customers in the non-member town of Glastonbury. And the way in which a project is paid for, unlike a member town, is the 6,200 customers pay for 100% of the project. So the assessment is subtracted from the remainder of the project, and the remainder of those customers pay 100% of that project. So some people did not feel that it was fair to be assessed when they have no intention of connecting. There were some legitimate concerns surround, all of them were legitimate concerns, but there were some concerns regarding areas or roads that were part of the petition that they felt, 90% of the people on that road do not have a uranium problem. And so we took that back into consideration. And if and when we present that to the Water Bureau, we will probably be revising the scope of the area in which we try to provide water to that general location within the town. What we try to do, as in our assessment process with our own towns, is we typically are in the range. The assessable component of the project is typically in the 20 to 25% range. So 25% of the revenue comes from the assessment, and the remainder comes from everyone else. So what I had mentioned at the meeting is that, the concern we would have is if we remove a road from the project area, and that percentage drops dramatically. For example, the worst-case scenario, if you had one homeowner and you had to spend $1 million to get the water main to that one homeowner, the assessment would be less than 1%. Would you still want to go forward with that project? So that would be the question we would have to the Water Bureau and to the full board. So those are the kinds of things we will work out. But we did understand their concerns. There's nothing we can do by charter to remove an assessment from someone that is within the project area where the community and our board chooses to build that project. There's nothing we can do. The answer is, I would assume, it's a tax issue, is that if you have multiple people on your street that have high levels of uranium, and although you may not, I can't imagine it's good for the marketability of your home or for the assessment value of your home, and it's definitely not good for the tax collection and assessment process for the town. So we had that meeting. We will bring back the results of the meeting and the petitions to the Water Bureau. And then,
Yeah, I just have one question on that. Has the legislative delegation in Glastonbury gone to the state with this issue? Because it's an extenuating circumstance that's inconsistent with what happens in every other community. I would think that there would be some kind of a consideration by the legislature to step in a situation where, I think this is probably the only community in the state that has at least to my knowledge, has a uranium.
uranium, so it's a very significant issue.
And it's a significant issue, similar to what's the place down there?
East Hampton.
East Hampton.
So the regulations by EPA, and we provided this information at the meeting, handouts from EPA and the DPH. EPA mandates that if the parts per million are more than 30, you're supposed to obviously provide some form of treatment for your water to drink it. And the recommendation is that if the levels of uranium in your home or in your well is above 900 parts per million, then the documentation says immediately call DPH and do not bathe in it. So there are homes, and the problem that we have, and DPH has, and even the town has, is not everybody's running out getting a test to see if they have uranium, right? So we don't know the magnitude of this problem, but what we do know there are homes that are in the thousands, tens of thousands part per million. So this is a significant issue. I met a gentleman after the meeting with the town manager, and his levels are over 10,000, and he can't sell his home. There's nothing he can do. So this is a major issue. I did ask Lori Matthews. She did write a letter of support. We do have that.
Okay.
She did not come to the meeting, and indicated to me that the state doesn't have any money to fund this, because they put in $50 million in the governor's budget for the
Crumbling
yes,
foundation.
there you go. So that's just an update on that meeting. The other important thing that I will mention, and that'll be it, is really the discussion about the closing of the hydro facilities, decommissioning of the Colebrook Reservoir. So we have done everything we have said we would do, which is we've gotten the hydro units out, we've decommissioned the electrical components, we're turning over those facilities to the Army Corps for the purposes of them doing their project this summer. The biggest question that we all have is, when is the Army Corps going to initiate their project? In conversations with them on the phone, they have told us, and we have an agreement or a work plan, they will give us 60 days notice. The community is concerned about when is this going to start, and we believe that most likely their project is not going to start before September 1st. The MDC will be vacated before October 1st. So that's the most important component of this. The other component is I did actually meet just today with staff and with DPH and with DEEP to talk about this issue. The discussions we've had to date have really been inclusive of the Hogback Commission up in the watershed towns, with Commissioner Buell representing the commission. So we had, a little heart-to-heart as to what we're doing, and their concern was, well, what are your plans? And they're really, it's a difficult technical discussion, but the one thing I tried to leave them with was that the agreement that we have, what gives us the rights to 10 billion gallons of water behind the Colebrook Dam, which we do not own, is not going away. When the MDC and our agreement goes away, that 10 billion gallons of water will still be there. The question is, how will the Army Corps release that water, and will they continue to release it the way we have released it over the last, 30 years? So our position, our belief is the Army Corps will do that. They're going to have to do it that way. There's no really other way to do it. But we have asked in writing of the Army Corps what and how they're going to do this, and we have yet to hear back any specifics. So it's still a work in progress. Our plans, Tom and Chris have done a great job. We will be out by October 1st, and October 1st is important because the taxes are due on October 1st. So, and for the town of Colebrook, so our goal is to be completely done, and we will be completely out of the Colebrook Reservoir by that time. And that's
Commitment of any repairs and stuff in next year's budget also be out of the budget?
it will.
So you're talking at least $800,000.
At least 800,000, correct.
Further questions? If not, thank you. Item 8, report from the district council.
I don't have anything to report.
Item 9, Bureau of Public Works, consideration of impossible action regarding authorization to proceed on contracts number 4 and 5 for the South Hartford Conveyance and Storage Tunnel. This is an item that was not taken up in the Public Works Committee because the basic purpose of what we're doing there will have to be dealt with the total board. And in this case, time was running short. I thought it made more sense rather than having people sit outside, participate in the process. So the chairman's agreed to do that. So before you, is there a motion to adopt item 9?
So moved.
So moved and seconded.
Second.
Okay, Rich? Are you, I guess
Yeah,
you,
if you,
I'm sorry.
yeah, if you,
He's gonna take-
if I could just give everyone a remember moment here. So the purpose for BPW was really to give the chairman of BPW an update on the tunnel project. He had a number of questions for us that we wanted to answer as part of the presentation. But also, more importantly, the resolution in front of you is we're going back to 2016, and if everyone would remember, we had a dilemma in 2016, in the April timeframe of 2016. We had agreed in principle to take a $600 million tunnel and break it up into 5 components. And the largest one being Contract 2, which is what we're building today. That's a $278 million contract. And the important point to the board was we expected and are relying on, as part of our cash flow, for how the clean water projects are paid for. We're expecting a certain amount of grant and a certain amount of loan. And our expectation for that $600 million project was we were going to receive approximately 50% grant.
48.
Right. So the problem we had was we broke it up into 5 pieces, as we had agreed to with the state environmental DEEP, and then and we brought this back to the board to say we asked for in writing that you guarantee the MDC that we're going to get that 48 to 50% grant for the other components that we had broken up. And we had a little bit of a letter writing campaign, and basically the answer was, we can't guarantee the state, we can't guarantee funds from the legislature.
can't commit to
We can't commit to legislature, thank you. So the answer was, we brought this to the board and said, we have a dilemma. Do we proceed with contract 2 without any guarantees we're going to get grant and loan for 3, 4, and 5, or do we say we're not moving forward? The decision was at that point to move forward with contract 2. Tonight, we also have a resolution in the same similar manner. Because of what had happened in the past, we had said to the state and to EPA, Bart, myself, and staff went to Boston last month and said, no mas, we're not going to move forward with contracts 3, 4, and 5 without a guarantee that all of the grant money is going to get awarded for all 3 contracts. They had proposed to develop a deviation letter, which really doesn't help us because bond counsel had said, all a deviation letter does is it promises you that if money's available, you will get it first. The problem with that was that the only way we could pay for contracts 3, 4, and 5, the grant portion, which is $70 million, would be to utilize revenue bonds to pay that. And if we did that, bond counsel told us in writing that if you use revenue bonds, you cannot reimburse yourselves with GEO bonds or grants from the state, period. So the answer was, we're not moving forward with 3, 4, and 5 without a commitment the state's going to give us all the money. We went back and forth with the state over numerous discussions. The chairman actually met with the commissioner from DEEP.
Maureen and I both met.
Maureen Commissioner Magnan. And the discussion was, we don't want to build a tunnel to nowhere. We need this grant money guaranteed for all 3 contracts. The end result was, the bond commission last Wednesday, was that we did in fact receive the grant money for 4 and 5. 3 is not, was not part of the agenda and is not a guarantee. So now our $70 million grant request, we're getting a portion of it, but we're not getting approximately $20 million guaranteed for contract 3. So we're going to ask, after the presentation, we're going to ask the same thing through resolution. Do you authorize us to move forward to bid 4 and 5 without any guarantee that we're going to get any money for contract 3? The challenge is the risk is dramatically lowered because we've got the grant for 4 and 5.
But the other issue is, from a technical standpoint, the money did not exist in fiscal year 2018 and 19, which expired yesterday. We are now in fiscal year 2019 and 20, which runs from July 1st today to June 30th of 2020. So we're into the next budget factor, which changes the perspective of what is available for allocation. And I believe that was the understanding, is that it'll be split so that we'd be subject to a new budget and additional money in that process. What DEEP is trying to do is obviously work within the constraints of the budget process, and it was a very positive meeting. It wasn't a negative meeting, so.
And there is an opportunity, because all of these funds, there was $136 million that was approved through the bond commission. There is an opportunity, and it's what they call first come, first serve. So there is an opportunity, if we get our contract 3 bid, we only have to have it bid, and we have to have our application in, and we have to have the bid, the results in the application. As long as we can get there first, then we may be able to receive the monies for contract 3 within this allocation, this $136 million. If not, as the chairman said, there will have to be another bond commission hearing. But the tunnel doesn't work without a pump station. Contract 3 is the pump station, which takes all of the CSOs and SSOs that are flowing into the tunnel, and it allows us to pump it out of the tunnel and into the plant.
So in concept, we would have it without, what's it, 3?
Without
Without 3, we would have a tunnel, And we would have no way of getting everything out of the tunnels. So the reality.
And I do believe Deep obviously doesn't want to have a circumstance where we don't, we don't have a working
But
tunnel.
again, in practicality, they're trying to work this out between two budgets. And
Right.
they're making the allocation out of the prior fiscal year. And the new fiscal year is a new ballgame. Yes,
Mr.
Andy?
Chairman, has the legislature allocated the monies, and it's just a question of getting onto the bond agenda? Is that what's
The money's been
happening?
allocated.
That's what's happened last Wednesday.
Okay.
So the money was allocated, and the bond commission approved $136 million, and of which we're getting our monies, $80 million between grant and loan for the two contracts.
No, but I was asking really
The
for contract
legislature
3.
has appropriated the money there's money in that fiscal year budget to carry that.
There is,
cost.
okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Correct.
Still was latitude by, I believe, Deep still has latitude
Right.
in that, right? Buddy?
So, I'm trying to understand, if we can skip number 3 and go to 4 and 5. They funded 4 and 5, or they're promising to fund 4 and 5 out of what was allocated for them to spend on clean water. So 3 is the pump station, so I don't know how we can skip that. But you said something, Scott, that I'm a little bit familiar with from the bond commission. And that's that, now they want you to put this out to bid without the money and then get the bid, because this is what we find all the time. So it goes out to bid without the money allocated for the thing. And then we get the bid in, and then they don't allocate the money for, another 6 months, so the bid's useless. So why are we putting it out to bid if we don't have the money? I don't understand
Yeah,
that.
so that was our concern, Commissioner, exactly the concern. Our concern was with a deviation letter, you would basically have a promise, and you would put the projects out to bid. You might receive bids, and the bond commission may never meet. The bond commission did meet, and so we do have the money. So contract 4 and 5, the money is secured. All we need to do is follow through with the paperwork side of it. We're going to, based on the resolution tonight, we're going to bid contract 4 and 5, receive the bids, then we have to take those bids, how many have we received, and we have to implement that into the actual application, which is already over at Deep. So it's just a matter of filling in the blanks.
Got that. I was talking about number 3.
Yeah,
I'm talking
so
about
contract 3, we're not going to bid contract 3 until we have, now, if we finish contract 3 in the design, which is due in mid-July, we finish the contract, we get it out to bid, and we can become first served, there may be an opportunity for contract 3 to be part of that original $130 million allocation from the bond commission. But we're not going to bid contract 3 without a guarantee that that money will be applied to us.
In this fiscal year.
That was my point, because if we do, you lose all the money you spent putting the bid together, and the bidders all get, they got to rebid it, so there's more costs associated with that.
We understand that.
So, yeah, well,
But we got 3.
I know Scott understands it, but not everybody else.
Not bid contract 3 without a guarantee. There's a number of municipalities within that $136 million, and we basically understand what status those projects are. We're watching and paying attention, and we will not bid this work, to your point, unless we are guaranteed that that money is allocated towards our project.
I think the strategy is perfect, because it will be strengthen our case to be standing on front line.
Right. So we do have a presentation.
Now that
Just
you've
the-
now that you've discussed everything,
I do that to her all the
I got-
time, sorry.
again, just a little update on contract 2, and I'm going to go back and show you all the contracts. But, the orange is blinking there. See it on the right? That's where Iris, the tunnel boring machine, is right now. Do you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're, let me give you some information. See it on the right?
It's just about weather space.
Oops, go back.
It's actually,
First time.
See it?
it's actually moving.
Actually, it isn't moving. Actually, this week, they're down for maintenance, so, but that is where Iris is right now, under Franklin Ave. And again, this is what Scott was just discussing with you, contract 5, the whole tunnel, South Hartford Conveyance and Storage Tunnel is 5 separate contracts. You know, we built the very first one was the orange, we had to do electrical work on the site. The second contract, contract 2, is the blue line and all of the drop shafts, okay? And that's what's under construction right now, $279 million, okay? And contract 3 is the pink over to the right, the pump station. Contract 4 is the red, the consolidation conduits for Franklin and Maple Avenues. And contract 5 are the consolidation conduits over on the west side, New Britain Ave and the Newington overflows. Okay, so 2 is under construction, that's the blue. So right now, what's going on with contract 2, we have a pump station shaft that is nearly completely lined. They've drilled, they've blasted, they've dug down the 164 feet, and they are lining it right now. They got about 30 feet left on the top of the liner of the pump station shaft. There is a milestone date of July 27th, 2019, the contractor is supposed to make. They're showing they are a little behind on that milestone, and we can discuss schedule a little later if you want to. On the main tunnel, the starter tunnel, as you know, we had to drill and blast about 500 feet. Then we put the tunnel boring machine down in the hole last September, and the machine buried itself the first 500 feet while they made enough room to hook up all of the trailing gear on the machine. And so right now, they have bored 3,500 feet with 17,721 feet left to go. There's also a milestone completion date for that portion, turning over the launch shaft basically to the contract 3 contractor of October 16th of 2020. The retrieval shaft out in West Hartford is going well. We haven't had any complaints. They've been doing blasting out there. So they're still doing that, digging down to the final depth, and they should be completing that in August. And all of the drop shafts have been completed, and those sites are all covered and secured right now. So as far as schedule, our completion date is May in 2022. So we're halfway through this project. Even though the tunnel boring machine is only 3,000 feet, they've done a lot of other work that pushes their schedule to halfway. All of those drop shafts they've completed, and all of the, the launch shaft, the tunnel pump station shaft, the retrieval shaft. As far as money spent to date, again, we're fairly similar to the schedule, 58%.
Sue, before you go, so we're tracking this very closely, right? So we don't want ever a contractor to be ahead of us. And especially with a tunnel that you can't get out of the hole, it has to go forward, it can't go backwards. So the remaining portion, as you can imagine, just the mobilization first requisition was, how much was that?
$8 million.
$8 million.
Yeah.
So that's why you see that this type of project, you're paying more up front, even though the work seems like they're not that far along. But more importantly, the remaining portion, the tunnel is paid for by foot, right? So it's all about, if they don't get a foot, they don't get paid for it. So the rest of the component of payment is based on production.
And most of the work that's left, like I said, they're almost done with the tunnel pump station shaft. The retrieval shaft's not much work is left there. All the other drop shafts are done, so that's why you see a little bit more on the spend. And, I just put a bunch of pictures in here. I'll go through these very quickly for you, but these are the segment liners being delivered to the site. This was back in March. We store them all on site. They're nearly complete with production of them. They just need to ship them all down here. There's no elevator in service, so access into the shaft is via this man cage here. I've been in it a few times.
Don't get in the elevator.
Wait for the elevator.
This is an older picture, but again, just showing you, this was the starter tunnel. You could see the conveyor system hooked up on the top, the air ventilation tube over to the right, and all of the other utilities that go out to the TBM on the right there. This is actually looking at, this is in the tunnel, looking at the back of the machine. So the machine's ahead of you, and it's boring, but, you know, the machine itself is over 400 feet long. So that's the rear of the machine right there. It's very interesting when you're down there. Here's they call it the Loki. This is the little train that transports the workers from the launch shaft all the way out to where the machine is. So, you know, now we're almost a mile out, you know, 3/4 of a mile. This is just the machine installing the segments as the machine is boring. The segments are being placed along the walls. Grouting behind the segments, so all of that annular space behind the concrete is being filled with grout. This is how the machine propels itself forward. Those thrust cylinders actually butt up against the last segments that the machine placed, and actually pushes the head of the machine forward. So that's the drill head is what's straight ahead there. And again, just the conveyor system that moves the muck out of the hole as they're mining. There you can see the whole conveyor and the pile of dirt. When I come up 91 in the morning, and I usually get off that exit there, I look at the pile to see how, if it's a big pile, I know they had a decent day the day before. Sometimes I'll see 85 or 100 feet. Some days I'll see they do 50 feet. Some days they do 20 feet. But I like, you know, the pile is much bigger when they do 85 or 100 feet. This just stores all of the belts and the conveyor system feeds them into the hole and to the machine for moving all of the muck out. Trucks being loaded, going off to the disposal sites. This is the pump station. As I said, they've got about 30 feet left. This was from April, but right now they've got about 30 feet left that you could see them placing the forms to pour the concrete walls in the pump station shaft. So they're nearly complete with this operation. This is the retrieval shaft out in West Hartford. And same thing there. They're still drilling and blasting there. And all of the, this is the actual retrieval shaft. That's the cover they've got ready to go to put on that retrieval shaft to secure it until we're ready to work, till the machine gets out there. So as Scott was saying, the funding, contract 5 is ready to go. We've got deep approval on the plans and specs. We've had our eligibility letter on this one for quite a while. 42% grant, 58% loan. The reason we're not getting 50/50 is because there is a fairly significant SSO component on contract 5. It's not just CSOs, there are SSOs. So that's why we only got 42% there. But that one is ready to go, and that will be on the street later this month. Being bid now that the bond commission approved those funds for contract 5.
So just the difference between SSO and CSO. So CSO is regulated by DEEP, State of Connecticut. SSOs are regulated by EPA. So the money that we're getting is state money. So the reason why we get less money on the SSO projects is because it's mandated by EPA, not the State of Connecticut.
Contract 4 has been at DEEP for more than 90 days now. We should be getting our approval anytime now. So that one will follow Contract 5, go out to, we don't want them on the street at the same exact time. So we'll bid 5, we'll get the amounts in and get everything over to DEEP, and then we'll bid Contract 4. There is a 50% grant on that one. That one is complete CSO. So we get 50% on that one. And then Contract 3, tunnel pump station, that, again, we don't have the funding commitment in place, but we do have the eligibility. We know we're getting 48% grant on that, and we are in the process of completing that design. Those plans and specs will be going over to DEEP later this month for the 90-day review period. And, you know, we'd like to bid it as soon as we can after that.
So does the, can I ask just a quick question? So does the delay of issuing the contract for number 3, does that have any effect on the final, date on the schedule for, completion date? Or is this sort of like
Yeah,
not
we're
on a
still.
critical path yet? Or
Yeah,
what?
no, we're still within our, we want everything completed by the end of 2023 and in service. We do still fall within that, but, and that's something we talked to EPA about when we were up there, is that, we may fall a little behind because we're not getting the money. But we've got the money for 5 and 4. We'll move ahead with those, and hopefully 3 will follow.
So the original sort of end date for the pump station wasn't coincident with the end of the project. It was earlier.
Yeah,
And-
we had fluff in there.
Right, so float, we like to call that float. So, but each month that goes by, it's getting closer to becoming a problem and delaying the actual use of the tunnel, so.
We have the opportunity, because Contract 3 has not been bid yet, that we have, based on what we know and we're learning on a daily basis, we will have an opportunity to readjust the contract language about what the schedule is. We may decide to accelerate the project in the bids, to ask for that acceleration. So we've got a little opportunity to deal with, whatever we might have to deal with in terms of a delay. But EPA, in our meeting with them, understands that the MDC is relying, our customers are relying on this grant money to fund the projects. And I've said this a number of times. If we did not receive the monies that we were expecting for 3, 4, and 5, which was $70 to $75 million, we would have to raise the special sewer service charge next year 60%. It's planned to go from $4.10 to $4.60. If we did not get this money, it would have gone to $6.60. So we believe that quote crisis is over, and we should be able to get the product back on
Yeah, well,
track.
that's if you were gonna, that's, I know you've said that before, and I just want to, listen, I want to add this to it. So that's, first of all, you told us tonight, that, if we ever spend any other bond money on this, we can't reimburse it with a grant. So we want to get the grant.
Correct.
So, because we can't ever reimburse it. But, adding, paying down some of this with the sewer user charge is not the only option for paying this off. I mean, it could go to the ad valorem where it was supposed to go in the beginning. But we keep adding this to the water bill, which I think that, Ray and I have talked about possibilities of taking things off the water bill instead of adding more to the water bill. So we hope that's not going to be an option or not going to be, necessary. But I think there are other ways to fund it. Obviously, the first choice is the grant.
Right.
So.
The issue with the towns and ad valorem is the same. So if we charge the towns for this in lieu of,
That'll be in property
we
tax.
cannot reimburse the towns. So if we do anything but get the grant, we will lose the opportunity to receive the grant. So, and DEEP understands that, and so does an EPA. So the answer is, we're going to have to wait, and hopefully the bond commission meets again within the next few months, or we're in our process, the list of projects that are on the list, some of them fall off, and we're able to take advantage of that by us being ready, bid ready, is basically the, option.
Any more, Sue? Or any further questions? Rich?
Sue, could you put the chart up again? I like to see where 3 and 4, 4 and 5 intercept with 2 connection.
No.
The map?
Right.
Franklin Avenue, Maple, New Britain, and West Hartford.
So
Where the red line intersects, is that it?
those 2 red lines, Sue?
Yeah, so you've got, we've got numerous drop shafts along the route, but you've got one at, you've got Hanmer is, you got the Mesner Center is the one on the bottom, the red one on the bottom. You got the Hanmer Street is the next one. I can't read the numbers from here. I have my new glasses on, I can't read it.
It's down at D&D Market.
Then you got South and Market, and then over there, you've got to the left more is the Maple.
Well, no, I guess my question is 4 and 5 connect to 2, correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right. So if 2 doesn't catch up to where 4 and 5 connect to,
Well, the drop shafts are there.
They're already
The-
there,
The
so
drop
it's already
shafts
going
are,
through a
were,
drop shaft.
that, yeah, we included the drop shafts in contract 2.
so all this work can go on concurrently without any interruption.
So
of the 2.
there's literally, the 200-foot holes are there with covers on them, and they're all secured at those sites.
This is at Metzner. This is at Adelaide Street, down where
Right.
the old D&D.
Yep.
It swings back up and goes along. You can see the green in West Hartford. Susan, what's this red, what's this 7 up here?
The what?
Up here,
7?
It's a consolidation pipe.
this consolidation, that's where you come together?
The red you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, so
That's
the
the
drop
maple.
shaft.
Oh, those are the pipes.
Drop shaft.
Yeah, those are the actual pipes leading to the drop shaft.
So you have, basically 3 components to
That's
the
BS
project.
3.
You have the tunnel itself, which is taking the overflows in. You have a drop shaft, which gets the overflows to the tunnel. And then you have to have higher level consolidation pipes that are higher in elevation. And they're physically going from the drop shaft to the location wherever that overflow
Where the
is.
overflow is, right.
And so, you guys and gals remember, we talked about this, we must have did 6 or 7 analysis of what was the cheapest way
Route
to build a
options.
tunnel, the options. And we had to consider, and that's why the tunnel looks the way it looks, because we're trying to get the tunnel is $26,000 a foot. So we're trying to get the tunnel as close to the drop shafts as possible, and you're weighing the cost of the tunnel versus the cost of the consolidation. Obviously, consolidation tunnels are shallower, and so you're dealing with open cut, you're dealing with police, you're dealing with all those things that are expensive. So you're weighing all those options. What's the cheapest way? How close do you get to the drop shafts? And
Where
that's-
can you find property?
Right, where you can find property and the easements. So this is our best alternative.
Questions? We haven't made a motion to adopt. Item 10, is there a motion to, I'm sorry, item 9, a motion to adopt?
Move the resolution.
It's been moved and seconded.
Nick.
Are there further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor? Signify by saying aye. Opposed? Okay. Item number 10, personnel and pension insurance consideration of and a possible action regarding amendment of job specifications. Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Al?
Second.
you-
Yeah,
you-
Mr. Chairman, this item was unanimously approved in PP&I. Mr. Zeig will deliver, along with the CEO, the appropriate detail with regard to this matter.
Bob?
This resolution encompasses all the director level positions, 6 of them. So in the process of realigning and filling the chief administrative officer and the chief operating officer, various functions were moved from different jurisdictions. So this is a resolution that recognizes the breadth or the expanded breadth on these positions. We looked at the reporting to elements that may have been adjusted. And then the last ingredient was, because they were all allocated the same position, the same labor grade, salary grade when we started, we wanted to end up with a similar result at the same salary allocation. So from classification, this is warranted to go from EE 22 to EE 24.
Discussion? Richard?
Are all these positions filled as we speak?
All but 2, right?
Yes, thank you. All but 2.
Which 2 are not filled?
The 2 that are not filled, the chief financial officer is temporary interim filled by Chris Martin. And the director of operations / utility services is vacated. Chris Levesque was the director of operations, and he's now the chief operating officer.
Thank you.
Further questions? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, item 10 is adopted. Item 11 is, I'm sorry,
Don't you have B and C?
yeah, D and C.
B and C.
B, okay. Item B will remain in committee. It still requires committee work. It's not ready for the main committee to deal with. Mr. Chairman is in process of working, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, excuse me, through you. Item B, I want us to be very careful there. That should not, we need to make sure that that is not a cost of living payment.
COLA.
We should make sure that that is a one-time bonus payment,
Yeah, well,
because we don't want to leave people with the impression that there are any cost of living adjustments
yeah.
in place with regards to
Right,
pension.
there's still a lot of work that it has to, the concept is there. We just want to make sure that when we move the concept, that we have legal, the pension advisor, and everybody else take a look at it before it comes out to the body. I guess the first meeting, the public discussion was tonight.
Yes.
Stay tuned. Okay, item C, sale of Glastonbury land, possible executive session, recommended action, receive and adopt the resolution. This is a resolution that's been consolidated into one resolution from 2. Do we need an executive session on this?
If we, the whole thing's gonna have to be reworded if we put it into one,
Didn't you?
because cease to occur additional costs by the manager of the LLC, and then approval by PPNR, there's
just,
be all rewritten if we're gonna do it in one.
yeah, the way, you're correct. The way PPI handled it was they took one vote on, but on both resolutions. So they consolidated really the vote of the 2 resolutions into one vote.
Right.
But they remain 2 separate resolutions.
Oh, okay, so we still have 2 resolutions.
You still have 2 resolutions, that's correct.
Okay,
If you want to vote on them at the same time,
fine. So,
fine.
is there any objection to voting on Resolution 1 and 2 and a consolidated vote for 1? No objection?
Yeah, that's fine.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Two resolutions,
We're-
Mr. Chairman.
No,
We're gonna
it's-
pass them on.
It'll be passed up.
Okay. So before you is 2 resolutions which have been consolidated into one action. How's that?
Makes it simple.
They're being handed out to you. You look good, the lasagna
Yeah,
looks good.
I got it.
Okay, who's going to take this?
I'll move the resolution.
It's been moved already.
And
Well,
Counselor?
there's two resolutions. One, they both relate to the contract between the MDC, the pension fund, and the town of Glastonbury. The first resolution has to do with pension fund land, which is the larger of the parcels that we're considering selling to the town of Glastonbury. It has a value and carried as a value in our pension fund of $12.5 million. And all that resolution says is that we recognize that it's been a while that this contract's been pending. We're on our 9th extension. And the PPI committee is recommending to the board that we send a letter to
Notify.
the town that there'll be no more extensions after September 30th, 2019, and that we suspend any payments on non-contractual expense items until that time. And then if we have a closing, we'll come back to you. Or a scheduled closing, we'll come back to you. If not, then we'll decide after September 30th, 2019, what to do with the property. The second resolution is very similar to the first, only it relates to the two other parcels that are part of the Glastonbury land sales transaction. They're the Colebrook Reservoir in Glastonbury, then another smaller piece in Glastonbury. The same resolution, only the letter would not come from the manager of the LLC that's holding the pension land, but rather from the CEO would send the letter. But again, the manager of the LLC would be directed not to expend any more funds unless it's contractually obligated to do so. So those are the two resolutions. Simply put, if you want to talk about strategies and values on real estate, I would suggest you go into executive session. But if the resolutions stand for themselves and there's no
Any
discussion, then you
objection
don't have to.
I think it's pretty self-explanatory in the resolutions. Okay, Rich?
Just a question, this was in front of PP&I?
Yes.
What?
It's
Okay,
part of
that's
the
all.
pension,
All right.
the
That's all.
pension
Just- It was
consideration.
approved. All right.
If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's it, right?
Bill,
Yeah,
you get to.
yeah, I'll do that when I get, let the public speak, and then when I get into general comment, I'll go to that. Opportunity for general public comment. Okay, one housekeeping issue is that the committee that was looking at revenue options relative to saving money and also adding revenue to the MDC budget line, one of the issues that we're looking at is sludge and disposal and other disposals, and that doesn't belong in the water side, it belongs in the public works side. So I will ask that it be moved over. Rich, it'll be under your committee's control, and I'll make the appointments to, if people are interested in being on that committee, please notify me. I've got a list of people that have an interest in it. We'll make the appointments this week. That's, so far, Andy, Adel, Ray, Dominic Payne, Al Taylor, and Commissioner Hoffman. Yeah, they're on water. That's where it's really coming from, so. Commissioner, questions and comments? Buddy?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to say that I can see by the old clock on the wall that it's a new clock on the wall. And that one on the south side.
Not that one.
And it appears to be right on time, too. So
I figured it was so small you wouldn't be able to see it.
No, I can see it. And I'm not sure who did it, but whoever it is, I want to thank them and say recommend it. I don't know, was it you, Carrie, or what? I mean, somebody did it. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We now have a clock that works.
Well, they both work, but
Well, that one didn't.
I figured you were going to ask to move your seat from the other side so you could see the bigger clock.
A little smaller, yeah.
That's a little large, you're right. For, no comments? I'm sorry, Dom?
We have a lot of information going out to the employees coming up, a whistleblower policy, SAP surveys, wellness program, and I'm concerned on whether or not all that information is properly getting out to the employees. So I think if it's only done through emails, I think we have a problem. And I would ask that maybe Scott could fill us in on that.
Yeah, so you mentioned a whistleblower, so we did send out a whistleblower email, and I thought it was more appropriate that Rita Kelly, who's our affirmative action staff person, send that out directly rather than come from me. So she did do that, and she did have a number of responses. We already have a process which Rita runs for affirmative action and for any kind of complaints, so that's why we thought it was really important for her to actually implement this program. We can, and that's a good suggestion, go out and educate the employees on the whistleblower program, so we can do that.
It should be posted on bulletin boards.
Yeah, but we can, in terms of actually meeting with staff and educating them on the policy, we can do that.
Okay.
On the wellness program, we completely agree with you, and we are actually, our first step is to meet with the chair and co-chair of PP&I, and we're planning to do that in mid-July. We have a number of great programs we want to implement this coming year for 2020, and they're significantly different than anything we actually have. So we're going to present that to the chair and co-chair in mid-July. We're going to bring it to PP&I. You didn't mention anything about the August, but we're going to bring that to PP&I in September and educate the board on the plan. And if it's supported and approved, then we will move forward in October and educate the employees on the program. I think it's a great program. And one of our biggest challenges is hypertension and diabetes, and this program specifically identifies that. And it's the program costs $60 per person, so we believe it's a significant benefit to our employees.
So besides emailing it and putting it on the bulletin board, on some of these real important things, is it possible that we could actually hand deliver something to each employee from the supervisors? Just to make sure that they get.
On the wellness program, we're going to actually go out and educate our employees on that, but we will not do that till October, because that's the time frame in which people start to change their insurance and understand what the benefits are. The sign-up period is October, Bobby? Into November, and then people will elect to engage in those programs or not. So we will be doing that in October.
All right, and then one other issue I had is, last month we talked about a piece of property in East Hartford that is vacated right now that the MDC owns. Have we looked at? In East Hartford?
Yeah.
Yep. Have we looked at renting that out to small contractors or a business instead of selling it? I think you mentioned, it was brought up that the MDC wanted to sell the property, I believe.
Right. So we have not looked at that.
The town was using that
The
property.
town was using it. They vacated it. I don't know exactly when, but they have vacated. That is an opportunity to rent. We would rather not rent property. So we'd rather, get rid of it, or I think the resolution that the board passed last month was we are going to first offer it to the town with the understanding that they would clean it up, and we have not done that yet, but we will do that.
Thank you very much. Thank you,
John?
Mr. Chairman.
I don't think I missed this, but the deep issue, I know that we're going to a certain point.
The deep issue has been, we've served the State Department of Energy and Environmental Protection with an injunctive action.
Yes.
Art, you want to?
What will happen next is you have to meet with the lawyers first to set up a schedule.
then there's an enforced mediation that you have to go to, and then they set up dates for the trial. So it's been served, and we have got the first dates set.
And Scott, is there anything you can tell us on the spill? I mean, I know it wasn't, didn't have anything to do with it, but there's so much in the paper about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on, and the reason why there's a lot going on is the regulators don't really have a clear handle as to how to deal with it, right? So the concern I have is that the fingers point towards the least common denominator, which is the MDC, because it came from the plant. Physically, the problem that we had at the plant is two, obviously chemically, and but foam, if you can imagine trying to pump foam, you can't pump foam, right? So we had a problem clearing the foam through the plant. So it created a physical problem with moving this foam through the treatment process. You also have the chemical issue. The problem is PFAS is not supposed to be in the sewer system. So our first complaint is, well, what is the state of Connecticut, DEEP? What is CAA? What is the local building official and the state building official doing to make sure that this discharge of this type of product is being done per the state statute? And it's not supposed to go to the sewer system, but it did. The first question we received from the CAA and from DEEP was, why didn't you guys stop it going to the river? Well, we don't have control over who dumps what into the treatment process, right? We just treat it and it goes into the river. That we can't stop it from coming. There's not like a little crystal ball in the sewer pipe that comes into the plant and we can see bubbles and we can shut that off. So practically, we have no control. The only thing we can do right now is to make sure that the regulators and the state is doing what they're supposed to be doing by regulation to make sure that this doesn't get into the sewer pipe. We're not required to test for this as part of our permit. No one is. It's not supposed to be there. So the state has a lot to figure out. This has become an emerging issue, not just for wastewater treatment plants, but for drinking water, especially where municipalities or regions utilize Class B water bodies where you have this contaminant that's being discharged illegally or legally into a water source. That's why our position is, you should not be agreeing to utilize a Class B water body for your drinking water source, because there's some contaminants in there that aren't even tested for, right? They don't even know they're there or are supposed to be there. So there is a public hearing that DEEP is holding along with CAA. When is that? Tomorrow evening. Our position has been, this is not our issue, right? This is the state of Connecticut's issue. This is there's been a reluctance to bring in as many people around the tent that you can, and our position is, we have nothing to do with this discharge. We've asked the questions in writing, who is approving the building permit that allows this? Is this product allowed to be discharged to the sewer? The answer is no, but we want it in writing from DEEP. So if it's not allowed, what is DEEP doing about it? What is CAA doing about it? What is the local building official, the state building official? How are they protecting us and in turn protecting the river from this product? So unfortunately, there's not a lot to say because even DEEP doesn't clearly understand.
Test for it.
Right?
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion, questions, comments? I've got a question for the body. Traditionally, we used to skip a July or an August meeting. The last couple of years, we haven't because we've had so much activity. And I guess the question is there an objection to not having an August meeting unless there's something significantly pending? Is there any objection to that?
No objection.
If there's a problem, we can always have a special meeting. So we're going to take August off relative to a meeting. Rich?
When would the September meeting be? It'd be beginning.
It'll be the first Monday of September.
Labor Day might
I'm
come.
sorry, Labor Day might come in there. No, Labor Day is
It's Wednesday, September 4th.
September 4th, 2 days after the Monday.
That's early.
If not, the proper motion is in order.
So moved.
Without objection, we stand adjourned.